What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down how far quarterbacks should throw based on their age. So we're going to be talking about how far youth quarterbacks should throw, high school quarterbacks, college quarterbacks, and what you need to work on to improve your arm strength if you're not quite up to par with the standards that we would assume. So I hope this video helps you guys gives you guys a ton of value. Hope it helped you out. But also, fellas, if you're a QB and you would like to train with us this offseason, we are going to be coming out to 15 states across the U.S. for 2-day long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we're going to be coming out to San Francisco, California. That camp is completely sold out, but then we'll be heading out to Miami, Las Vegas, Charlotte, Portland, Dallas, Nashville, Chicago, Buffalo, Atlanta, Houston, Philly, Detroit, Boise, and Los Angeles. So if you guys would like some more information, again, fellas, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to our off-season camps. We'd love the opportunity to work with you. Let's get started with this video. So, with the camps that we've done those camp tours, for probably the last 2 years. We've experienced a ton of athletes. We personally train a lot of athletes down here in Southern California at the quarterback position specifically. We've worked with athletes who are high school players, we work with athletes who are youth players, college players, and some NFL quarterbacks. So we have a good knowledge of what to look for in a quarterback in terms of arm strength, the throws that they should be able to make. So we're going to start with the youth guys first. So the youth guys, I would say, are anywhere from ages like 9 to 12, right? So ages 9 to 12, I would honestly say ages 9 through 11 shouldn't even be worried about how far you can throw the ball. Chances are at that age, if you're playing tackle football, you probably don't have the best offensive line. So the chances of a wide receiver being able to run 30 yards downfield, even 25 yards downfield, is probably slim to none just based on the talent of the offensive line. Not trying to knock every single offensive lineman. I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but that's just the fact of the matter how it is. So I wanted to show this example because this is what youth quarterbacks need to be focusing on. They need to be focusing on timing, short routes, velocity on their throws, and throwing mechanics. And this is a pretty dang good example from this youth quarterback here. So I found this clip on Twitter. Just a random clip, like this is just some random younger quarterback that I see throwing, and he's doing the right things. He's got his weight back, he's working on his mechanics, he's throwing the ball on time, he's got pretty good form, and he's throwing short routes. Now, why am I anti-younger quarterbacks working deep routes? Here's why. Because a lot of quarterbacks just simply aren't as strong as some of the high school, like 13-year-old, 12-year-old kids to be able to drive the ball downfield. It's just the way it is. They weigh like 70 pounds. Like, you're not going to be able to throw a ball 30 yards downfield with good form weighing 70 pounds. So what I would rather have younger quarterbacks focus on is their accuracy, their throw timing, their throwing mechanics. All of those things will help you out long term. I think a lot of the times it has to do with, parents. Sometimes it has to do a lot with coaches. I think there's a lot of egos, right? Like, oh, well, I want to showcase that my kid can throw the ball further than your kid, or, I want my son to throw the ball a certain distance. Like, guys, we don't need to worry about that as a youth quarterback. You need to build your form. You need to build good habits. You need to build strength in your rotator cuff. You need to strengthen your legs, strengthen your core. Because what are we doing it for? Are we trying to win a youth football championship, or are we trying to get these kids prepared for high school? And if we were truly trying to get them prepared for high school, we would not be having these kids force the ball downfield with a long stride, dipping their head, pulling their shoulder down. So for the younger guys, I don't recommend the deep throws. I honestly think as a youth quarterback, throwing 20 yards or less is totally fine. Now, if you're in that 12, 13, 14 range, we're going to talk about how far you should be able to throw it in the next, because that's when I think it's starting to get a little bit more important. So I'm not trying to bag on this quarterback who's throwing here, but I'm going to showcase this because I feel, and I'm going to try to keep it completely honest and real with you guys throughout this video, because like I said, we have probably trained, I want to say, at least 1,000+ quarterbacks over the course of our last, 4 years, I want to say, right? Whether it's in person, whether it's the camps that we go to, it's a lot of quarterbacks. So we've been exposed to a lot. We see a lot of talent. We have a good idea of what coaches are looking for and where quarterbacks should be. This is an example of a quarterback. Now, I pulled this off of Twitter again, or X as they call it now. But this is a kid. He's going into, I want to say, his freshman year. So he's currently an 8th grader. This is a clip from his 8th grade film. And I want to showcase this to you guys. And I'm not trying to bag on the kid, but this is kind of what you want to try to avoid. Okay, so I'm going to show this full speed. So he's throwing a fade route to a receiver. Takes one step dropper, like a quick 3 and a hitch, and he throws it, but you see how he kind of sky balls it. Receiver has to come back to the ball. He's kind of waiting for the ball, and that's maybe like a 20 to 25 yard throw. Now, honestly, I don't think this quarterback's bad. I just think he hasn't been taught the proper mechanics. And I think this all comes down to what he did when he was ages 9 to 12, leading him into this 13, 14-year-old where he's got some bad habits with his throwing mechanics. And he may have been able to get away with it at that age, but those bad habits catch up to you guys. And we don't want to be that guy that is underthrowing a 25 to 30-yard pass. If you were in that 13, 14-year-old range about to enter high school, guys, I honestly think you need to be able to throw the ball 40 yards. 30 to 40 yards, I would say, is where you want to be. And again, if you're using a smaller ball, especially 30 to 40 yards. If you're using a high school ball, obviously there's a little bit less than that. And I don't want you guys to be so caught up in the exact yardage, the exact distance, but I want you to be focused on building good habits. If you can't build good habits at the quarterback position, these types of throws are going to happen. So why does he have improper mechanics? What makes this bad? What makes this bad is that he doesn't have the ability to generate torque due to his upper body mechanics. So to be able to generate arm strength on your throws, you have to get to the exact position that this quarterback's in. His back foot is under his frame, his weight is back. But to generate power, it's not just about getting your weight back and being able to push off this back foot. It's about being able to have something called hip and shoulder dissociation, which is essentially your shoulders are separate from your hips. And again, this is just a bad habit that a lot of quarterbacks fall into because of improper habits built early on. So you see when he goes to throw, when that front stride hits the ground, you see how his front shoulder is coming open. He's pushing off the back foot. He has this really long front stride. All of his body weight is getting forward. So when all of your body weight shifts forward like this, it is very hard to rotate your front shoulder when that front foot makes contact with the ground. When the front foot makes contact with the ground, you want to generate power almost like a baseball swing. Your front foot hits the ground, and then your shoulders have to be able to stay back like so. So your front foot hits the ground, your shoulders stay back. So now your hips can rotate through before the shoulders, and the ball kind of just like trails behind, creating almost a whipping effect. But when all of your body weight shifts forward, it's impossible to rotate your shoulder back, and because it's pushing off his back foot. And this is the bad habit that I freaking see every single youth quarterback have, because they try to throw a deep ball too soon. They get so caught up in, I need to throw it far, I need to throw it far. And parents, coaches, oh, well, my quarterback needs to throw it the furthest. He's got to be able to throw the ball deep. But guys, when you are forcing it and having bad mechanics, it only negatively affects you. And that long stride, natural arm strength is only going to get you so far. You doing this over and over again is going to create a bad habit to when we have a bigger football. We're playing with pads on. We're playing against faster competition. It's not going to look as fast. So that stride gets long. Your body weight gets forward. You have no dissociation, and you're essentially just pushing the ball. You're throwing that thing all arm. Your hips or your shoulders and the football are coming through before your back, hip, and before your legs, and that makes me lose torque. And that's why that ball sky balls. All because of that long stride, pushing all the weight forward, getting his whole upper body into it rather than his lower body. So guys, I am telling you this right now. Good habits being built at a young, because I know a lot of you guys watching this are younger quarterbacks. I know a lot of you guys watching this are, parents, coaches of younger quarterbacks. Please do not get caught up in the distance. I would say, like I said, 30 to 40 yards at that age. And you will get that 30 to 40 yards if you do the groundwork of improving your mechanics and having good habits at a young age, focusing on accuracy, focusing on timing, focusing on your foot strike. Because ultimately, it's a long road, the quarterback position. You only have so many reps before you fall into bad habits that you cannot break. And that long stride is one I see in literally, like I told you, we've worked with thousands of quarterbacks. I would say 90% of all youth quarterbacks on deep throws have that long stride, and it is only going to negatively impact you when you get to the next level. So now let's talk about older high school players. Let's talk about, high school, freshmen in college, you want to play Division I college ball. What types of throws are they expecting you to make? Because arm strength is one of those things that college coaches are looking for. Everybody always talks about like, oh, that's a college level throw. Oh, that's a big time throw. That's a college ball right there. What do they mean by that? Now, as far as distance goes for like seniors, juniors in high school, what are college coaches looking for? What's the distance they need you to throw in college? And honestly, how rare is it do you see a quarterback throw the ball further than 40 yards? It's pretty rare, guys. It's very, very rare. 50 if it's like a broken play and they got to roll out and they got to throw it. So guys, I would say anywhere from like 50 yards plus. is what they would be looking for at the next level. I mean, you look at NFL quarterbacks, guys, like all those guys have a freaking cannon of arms. Like even the guys who have the weaker arms in the NFL, if they were out there at a t-shirt and shorts workout, they all can freaking rip the ball. So guys, you got to understand that like once you get to 50 yards and above, you're probably pretty well off, I would say. Now, the types of throws, I think you need to worry more about throw velocity to be able to play at the collegiate level, and I'm going to explain why. They're going to ask you to make throws like this example right here. I'm going to show a good example of this type of throw, and then I'm going to show a bad example of this type of throw. But he's going to be throwing a deep 15 to 20-yard out route from the opposite hash on a rope, on a dart. So let's watch this. So he goes back and he steps into this and he throws this deep out from the opposite hash and puts this thing with enough velocity before that corner can get there. That is not a throw that you can float, guys. And he honestly was a little bit late on this throw, right? So he's throwing a deep out route. He goes back, takes just a 3 little gather step, and he's got to get this thing out and he's got to be able to generate power. And I want you to pay attention to his front stride. Right in place, not a long front stride. Younger quarterbacks will almost act like they're throwing off of a pitching mound anytime that they try to throw this ball far. Because think about how far of a throw this is. It's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-yard throw to the sideline from the opposite hash. Guys, that's like almost 50 yards on a freaking rope. They're going to ask you to make this type of throw. You need to understand that. So I would be more concerned with velocity. I would be more concerned with generating just overall torque, that hip and shoulder dissociation. Because, guys, the goal for every youth quarterback, for every middle school quarterback, for every high school quarterback is ultimately to play at this type of level right here. Division I level, Power 5 ball. How can we make these types of throws consistently? That's what you want to be focused on as a quarterback with this type of situation. So I'm going to show a negative example of this throw and what you want to try to avoid as a quarterback. But honestly, guys, like you see this type of throw, like they're looking for you to be able to throw the ball 40 to 50 yards on a dart. And you will not be able to do that with flawed mechanics. So let's look at this type of throw here. This is a throw from the middle of the field, and this is a deep out route, 5, 10, 15, 20-yard out route, just like what they were working in that last example from Penn State. So let's watch this type of throw. So this quarterback doesn't have the greatest form in the world, and you see how that ball doesn't really finish with a whole lot of energy. You see how he throws it, he gets this ball out, but it kind of dies, right? It kind of dies off at the end. If a college coach sees you make that type of throw, because like guys, here's the thing. Like I told you, we train a ton of high school quarterbacks, and all the high school quarterbacks, the goal that they have is to play in college. And so I train these quarterbacks. My home spot is in Southern California, right? So in Southern California, that's a big football market. So in the winter and like kind of in the spring, sometimes they have something called a contact period, which is where college coaches will come out to schools and they will ask certain players to throw for them. If they're recruiting a quarterback, they'll ask them like, "Hey, coach, could we watch him throw a few?" Right? And so I had a quarterback go through this process, and he eventually got a Division I scholarship offer. Every single school that he threw for, they all said that he checked the boxes physically, right? In terms of throwing. And you know what was the main throw they asked him to throw? Opposite hash, 15-yard out. That was the number one throw that every single college coach, from Oregon all the way down to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where the quarterback ended up going, they asked him to throw a 10 to 15-yard out, 15 to 20-yard out, from the opposite hash. And that ball had to finish with energy, and it had to be on time. So guess what we had to focus a lot on? His mechanics, him not forcing the ball. Because you look at this quarterback, when he goes to throw, what does he do? Exactly like the younger quarterback that we saw. Looks like he's pushing off this back foot. Looks like all of his body weight is going forward, so that prevents him from getting hip and shoulder dissociation. Remember, as a quarterback, guys, our power comes from our hips and our power comes from our legs and our ability to separate my shoulders from my lower body. So when that front foot makes contact with the ground, what I want is I want my shoulders to stay back. I want my weight to stay loaded on this back leg. So now front foot gets down. Now I'm worried about rotating, and my hips and core can rotate through before the ball. But when I push off this back foot, I got this long stride, I got my body weight going forward. Watch what happens here. His shoulders end up going before his hips. And you see this position right here? Elbow and shoulder ahead of the back hip and the back foot. And guys, I get this a lot. You'd be surprised. I get a lot of young quarterbacks that'll do this, and their parents and the young quarterback, what they will say is, "Oh, well, it's working for him, so why should we change it?" Because when you have to get to this level, which is what I'm assuming you guys all want to try to get to, this will not fly. you will not be able to generate power like this. You will not be able to generate power all arm when they're asking you to throw a 15-yard deep out on time. And this isn't even from the opposite hash. So remember, like I said, when we go to throw, this is a great position to be in to start out. But when he takes that front stride, he should still keep some weight on his back leg just like this, so his shoulders can rotate back. Front foot's anchored already in the ground. Now his hips can fire through before the shoulders, before the ball, and he could actually use his lower half in this motion. But because he pushes everything forward, that's what makes him lose that accuracy, kind of has a flawed throwing motion, and the ball doesn't have the right velocity. So guys, youth quarterbacks, I wouldn't even worry about it, but I would say maybe anywhere in that 20 to 25-yard range. Middle school quarterbacks, 30 to 40. High school quarterbacks, you got to be able to throw this thing 50 plus if you want to play at the Division I level, and you got to be able to throw this thing 30, 40, 50 yards on a rope, because they're going to ask you to make these types of throws, and these are the quote-unquote college-level throws that you see. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to train with us in 15 different cities across the U.S. this year, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season training camps all the way from Las Vegas to Philly, Detroit, all over the place, you guys. So again, very first link in that description below. I'll see you next time.